And now we are going to talk about the final topic of the show. And the final topic of the show involves a site that I have openly said I am no longer using anymore. Heck, I even said it in this very episode if you're watching this on the live stream. But Facebook has lost $60 billion in market value on pause in ad spending. Now, what is going on? Well, Facebook shares dropped roughly 1% on Monday as more advertisers joined the boycott of the social network. The continued slide followed an 8.3% loss on Friday amid the first round of pulled advertising. And we're talking about big companies too. We're talking about Starbucks. I think Microsoft just announced a boycott of Facebook. We're talking about Pepsi. Like, we're talking about a lot of big companies that are basically saying they're not going to advertise on Facebook anymore. Now, what are they doing? Well, here's the thing. The reason the companies are boycotting, I should say, Facebook is because they want Facebook to control hate speech. They want Facebook to control hate speech. They feel like Facebook does a very, very poor job of controlling hate speech, and that's what they're saying publicly. Now, to a certain extent, I agree with this. I think Facebook does a very bad job at policing hate speech. I mean, there's a reason we have the term keyboard warriors, because keyboard warriors get in your face. They are rude. They curse you out. They call you demeaning things, all because you don't agree with them. That's why they do it. And so they are rightfully called keyboard warriors, because they would never do this to you in person. Some of them might, but most of them wouldn't. But on Facebook, everything is A-okay. Here's the thing, though. This has been going on for years. Like, well over a decade. Well over a decade this has been going on. This has been like a growing problem. You know, there was like a movie that dealt a little bit with online bullying. It wasn't completely about online bullying. It was about bullying in general. It was called Bully. And after that movie, if the companies really cared about the effect that Facebook had on like kids who are viciously attacked online, they would have started their boycott then. But they didn't. And they didn't start the boycott when the anti-maskers were out there. They didn't start their boycott when the white supremacists were there. They didn't. You know when they decided to do the boycott? They decided to do the boycott when Facebook refused to remove a Donald Trump post citing free speech. Now then, this was actually a fairly famous post, one that, if I'm being perfectly honest, I did not agree with. But the president faced harsh criticism in a post, and this was when the writing started. He says, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, in reference to violent protests taking place in Minnesota in response to the death of George Floyd in police custody. Now, of course, I have to tell you, I do not think this is a wise thing to write. It is certainly not something the President of the United States should write. This is not unity. This is division, which is always been my biggest problem with Trump. Even if he does things that I agree with, even if I don't think he's wrong on certain things, his biggest failure is that he does not unite people. In fact, he seems to enjoy stirring the pot quite a bit. Some people like that. I personally don't. But now, as for this post, even though I do not like it, I do not agree that it is encouraging violence. Yes, you could read it as that way, or you can read it as, hey, when the looting starts, the shooting stops, referring to the police. Like, don't loot because they might shoot you. So, this post could be read in a couple different ways. Therefore, while I do not like it and I disagree with it, and it should not be posted in my view, I don't believe it is directly inciting violence. It could be interpreted, though. That's my stance. Now, I don't know how anyone feels about that stance, but we're going to have to move on. Basically, Facebook refused to remove this post. And they refused to remove it because of free speech. And you know what? I actually agree with Facebook on this one. I 100% agree. Facebook scares me sometimes. I don't like how they've gotten into our collective psyches. I don't like how they have literally, like the Matrix, plugged in, and we like now live and breathe on Facebook. We even live alternate lives on Facebook. I think Facebook has done far more harm than good as long as I've been around and as long as I've seen it around. Because I remember a time without Facebook. However, I agree that, hey, if you are going to be a platform and not a publisher, unless the posts in question actually directly incite violence, then it's free speech. You can hate the person for writing the post as much as you want. You can hate what's being read or being written, but if it's not illegal, you don't remove it. Now, that some people say, well, but look, even you admitted that this post is not unifying. It's like, yeah, well, that's actually a bigger reason why I dislike Facebook in general. But if Facebook is going to exist, then you need to let things like this go because this is not direct violence. So here's the thing. All these years that Facebook has been a problem, all these years that Facebook has been responsible for cyberbullying, for division, Facebook themselves manipulated algorithms and did like a test on users that they were not even aware of, where they would give some people, a bunch of happy articles and other people a bunch of negative articles and see how people reacted to that, like what it did to their mental health. And they did that public experiment, and I think they were wrong for doing that. Facebook scares me. But as a platform, they are not the ones who can decide who gets to write what. Like, I think it's pretty clear what's going on right now is that this boycott is there because basically they want Facebook to muzzle Trump, which I don't think you should do on the basis he's the president of the United States, and among other things. But Facebook refused because they said, hey, he above anyone, he deserves free speech just as much as you do. And they've defended that. In fact, they're doubling down on it. So, as it says in Bloomberg, Facebook Incorporated defended its policies on hate speech amid an advertising boycott to push the social media company to do more. Nick Clegg, the vice president of global affairs, said, "We have an industry-leading record in how we deal with dark side of the internet." Let's hear. Dozens of brands are putting their social media advertising budgets on hold and in a condemnation of divisive and racist content aimed particularly at Facebook and Instagram. Microsoft Corp, the third largest advertiser on Facebook last year, became one of the latest in a rapidly expanding list on Monday. Starbucks Corp and PepsiCo, among other big companies that announced they are curtailing ad spending. Facebook has no incentive to profit from hate on its site, Clegg said, adding that people who use the platform are against such posts as well, but disagree about how solutions are implemented. He states, they don't like to see hateful and inflammatory content on their news feed. Everyone is against hate. It's a question of what you do about it. Now let's look at this post again. And again, I find this to be problematic. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. People say that this is hate speech, that this incites violence. But again, while it could be interpreted that way, it doesn't actually say that we are going to shoot you. It says, hey, it could be interpreted like, hey, if you start looting, the police will shoot you. I have seen posts on Facebook and Twitter where when this thing all first started, they were actually cheering on the looting. They were saying, yeah, burn these cities to the ground, tear down these statues. That is inciting violence. And yet, when you see Pepsi and Starbucks, they're not bringing up those types of posts when it comes to boycotting Facebook or, hey, you got to stop using Facebook. They're just bringing up what Trump is saying. And again, what Trump says is problematic. I'm not actually defending the man. But this is not about, curbing hate speech. It's about curbing what these corporations view as hate speech. And they will let certain things slide. And here's the thing. If you are a platform, you have to let it all through. It's either all okay outside of illegal statements, of course, or none of it's okay. That's what they call the South Park philosophy. That it was like that issue in the Cartoon Wars episodes, which interestingly you can't stream on HBO Max, so pick up the discs, where basically Comedy Central did not want to make fun of the Prophet Muhammad because they were threatened with violence. And Stan said, look, you have to. Free speech is on the line. Either everyone is okay to be made fun of, or nobody is. And that's my stance too. People can say hateful, vile things. I can hate what they're writing as much as they want. As long as they are not directly inciting violence, it has to stay. Heck, if they're writing stuff on Facebook that I truly consider to be that hateful, you know what? I know not to be friends with that person. But hey, you know what happens when you muzzle these people and you don't know that the baker is a white supremacist because they've been muzzled on Facebook? Well, guess what? You're going to give them their business and you don't know exactly who they are. Not that it's going to matter too much, because as pointed out down here, the boycott is unlikely to do much damage to Facebook's revenue, as it has more than 8 million advertisers, the BMO Capital Markets analyst Daniel Salmon said in a research note. He added that the bigger financial impact could stem from greater pressure on Facebook to invest in safety and security in the coming years. So basically, there's so many people advertising on Facebook that this boycott isn't going to mean much of anything. In fact, I think the boycott will kind of come to a fairly quick resolution, because a few months will go by, nothing will really change, and then they're going to realize, well, wait, why are we not advertising on Facebook where all the eyeballs are? Let's go back to Facebook. That's just how it is. That is how it is. So, look, I know this is a controversial one, most likely, but I believe in free speech, and I say, hey, you know what? If you're an idiot, then may you die by your words. So, and that also might be, by the way, that holds true for Trump. Trump is definitely not helping his case for re-election by using Twitter. Like, first thing he should do, he should get off Twitter, but whatever. So, anyway, I'm going to end it right there, but I would like to know, what do you think of this Facebook boycott? Do you agree with it? And if so, why? And if not, why not? And hey, maybe you agree with a Facebook boycott in concept, but maybe you disagree with what's being boycotted. Maybe you think that there's a bigger issue that should be addressed here. I would love to know what your thought is on all of that. So, you know the drill. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly.